Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen from Memphis, Tennessee. It is Friday night. It is time to talk Axis and Allies, diplomacy, Robo Rally, all things that are fun and that we all enjoy. We've got Doug hanging out in the wings. He'll be along in just a few minutes. But I wanted to, before we throw to a break, let me double check and make sure that we've got some folks here checking my audio levels and make sure that I sound okay and that I'm not blowing people out or sounding like a whisper, just making sure that that is working, and I'm sort of in the middle of the screen. It's okay. But yeah, so it's summertime. Tracy's here. Fantastic. Jamie is moderating for us this evening, which is fantastic. We're grateful that she is here and doing that. We've already got lots of people hitting that like button for us. We appreciate that. General Brian Hyde is here. Thank you very much, sir. Great to have you here. We've got a lot to get through tonight. We have so much. Thank you, Tracy. We've got a ton to talk about when it comes to Battlefront Dayton. We've got a lot to talk about when it comes to what's going to be going on at Gen Con. Super excited about that. Brian Conway's here. Good to see you. Cheesy, let's go. I don't know. Welcome. You're the first that I've seen. And it doesn't look like you're a member, Cheese. The intent here was for this chat to be member only. I'm interested to see how you managed to slip in there, unless you've just recently become a member, and I'm not seeing it. But that's okay. The more the merrier, I suppose. The intent, like I said, was for this to be a member only. But we're glad that you are here. Carl is here. Great to see you, Carl. Thanks for being with us from the great state of Wisconsin. With your shed full of trophies, we know how it is. We try to. One day we'll be cool enough to have as many trophies as Carl. I hope. I might have to buy them, but you know, you do what you got to do to get through the day. But yeah, so we've got a lot happening and should be a lot of fun. But we've got a couple folks that are, I'm sure, going to be running late, so we're going to throw us over to the wait screen and the epic World War II music, and we'll be right back. Hit that like button while you're waiting. I'll be right back. All right, friends, we are back. I apologize to my non-member friends that are subscribers. I have learned how to, that we can't, I didn't know this was an option actually, to change the settings from subscriber only to member only in the chat. That would have been helpful during Gary and Doug versus the world. That would have been a useful thing to know. But we live and we learn, right, friends? That's all right. But if you are if you'd like to join the chat, please feel free to become a member. If you are not interested in doing that, that's perfectly fine. But we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments of the replay of this live stream. But you're not going to be able to be in the live chat. We've got a lot to get through today. Like I said, first thing that I want to talk about is the thing that's happening on the crawl right now is the Battlefront Dayton. We have. Man, this thing is moving fast. There's a lot happening, and it is happening really, really quickly. It's all very exciting stuff. A couple of things. The first is that Nightingale Games has decided to come on as a VIP guest sponsor, which is very cool. We're super grateful to Tom Gale and the entire Nightingale Games team for supporting this event. They're going to be sending us copies of, in fact, I believe in my package room at home is a brand new copy of the War Room 2nd edition. So that's cool. And we'll be bringing that to Battlefront Dayton for everybody to use in the demos and then hanging on to that for future events. They are very much hoping, they're very confident, but don't want to guarantee because of the way things are. But they are very confident they'll be able to send us a copy or two of Imperial Borders, which we're very excited to get our hands on. I know there's a lot of us that backed that campaign and are interested in what's happening with that. So we're excited to make sure that that is coming along. So we're looking forward to seeing that one in action. I was really excited because I got an email from a guy named Tony, who I'd never met, somehow had never met, though he's been at Gen Con as many times or more as I have, and in the Axis and Allies area. But he runs the Axis and Allies miniatures events at Gen Con and in other places. And he reached out to see if we'd be interested in hosting an Axis and Allies miniatures War at Sea event, and the answer was an absolute yes. I think those things are incredibly cool. I've never had the opportunity to actually play it myself, and so I'm hoping to get an opportunity while we're there to actually move around. Those the models that come with these are incredible. It's very, very cool. So I'm excited about that. So we're going to have a couple of learn to plays for those. And thankfully, Tony has a collection that's large enough that there's no need to bring any of your own supplies or anything like that. So he'll have everything that you need to be able to learn to and then get an opportunity to actually play this game, which I think is going to be very, very cool. In the next few days, probably early, middle of next week, we will start posting pictures of the trophies for the Axis and Allies tournaments. And I'm going to tell you, they're exceptionally cool. We brought on a sponsor for this, a company called premiumwoodart.com. And it's really just one guy who makes these by hand, and they are spectacularly cool. 132 days until Battlefront Dayton. Thank you, Brian, for that countdown. As if I wasn't sweating enough already. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Mr. Coffee, great to see you this evening. Thanks for being here. Yes, so that is really exciting. I'm telling you, like, these trophies are set up around the studio. I need to get pictures and so that I can actually share them with everybody. But I'm telling you that they're spectacular. They're absolutely spectacular. I'm super excited to tell everybody about these. In fact, when I first got them, I immediately put a couple of them together on my kitchen counter and sent pictures to Doug and to Jamie and my mom, and you got to see these. These are so cool. But anyway, so super excited to share those with everybody. I think everybody's going to be, hopefully everybody's as excited about those as I am. We are talking to some folks in the HeroScape community that reached out that are interested in bringing an event to Battlefront Dayton, which I think would be very, very cool. This is a kind of a faster area control, guys on a map moving around doing different things kind of game, and I think it fits our theme just fine. So I think it would be great. And I will tell you that the room that we have secured at the Hope Hotel is big. It's a big, big room. And I'm doing what we can. I'd love to make sure that this room is filled with as many games as possible. That makes sense, right? Like, I don't want to have like My Little Pony tournaments or anything. No offense to the bronies out there, but we're not going to have any My Little Pony events. But yeah. So anyway, that's very cool. And I want to talk about. I said something a little dumb a few weeks ago. I said that the event registration would be opening soon, and unfortunately, that was folly. That was silliness on my part, and I apologize for that. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to wait until after Gen Con. Board game BGN members will still get early access to event registration, and then we'll open it up to the public probably a week later. But what will happen is we'll have. Again, everybody that watches this knows I worked in casinos for a long time, right? So, and I ran poker rooms for a chunk of that career. And so I love how games come together in poker rooms, and I want to try to emulate that when it comes to our event. So basically what will happen is we'll set out a certain number of available tickets for an event, which will, in my planning, will equal a number of tables that will have to be available for that game. And then when that fills up, when or if that fills up, then we open additional tables, right? And then if it fills, then we open more tables. And so that's how we use the system to determine what the floor plan will be, right? Like if everybody wants to play 1942 Second Edition, then we're going to have a giant 1942 Second Edition tournament. Cool, because that's what everybody signed up for. Awesome. Everybody wants to play Global? Sweet. Everybody wants to play Stalingrad? Sweet. Let's go do that. So it's a matter of letting the event registration determine the space. And we're able to do that because the space is so big, right? And we have more tables than we're going to need. The only limitation is going to be like in Axis and Allies miniatures, because we have a limited amount of pieces and a limited number of people that can teach it, right? So once that gets to a place that it's full, then it's full, and there's nothing else that we can do about it because we don't have any more of that stuff. Though I'm very much hoping that Renegade is paying attention and paying attention to the interest that gets expressed when people start signing up for that event, because I think a reprint of the minis they'd just be printing money, because I think a bunch of us would sign up just to own that, right? I just think that would just be very, very cool. Anyway, so that is kind of how event registration is going to work. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that it ends up working the way that I think it's supposed to work. Let's see if this actually translates from my previous experience into this one. I think that it will, but we're going to find out. And lastly, one of the things that I've talked to folks about when we talk about them coming to Gen Con or to Spring Gathering, or any other kind of, a lot of other Axis and Allies centric events, is most of the events out there are single elimination. So if you come in on the first day and you happen to have a bad game and you get knocked out in the first round, now you're stuck and you don't know what to do for the rest of the time that you're there, right? And at Gen Con, that's not such a big deal because it's Thursday and you're at Gen Con, right? So there's still just like a mountain of things that you can do, more things than you could possibly do in 3 weeks at Gen Con. So that's not such a detractor, but I love Dayton, Ohio. It's a cool town. I don't know that there's 3 days worth of stuff to do if you happen to lose your first game. So what we'll be doing is a Swiss pairing. So in round 1, everybody will play. And then in round 2, winners play winners, losers play losers. Round 3, winners play winners, losers play losers. And so we'll get to where, in theory, somebody will have an undefeated score, and we'll figure out if there's a tie. Like if we end up with 2 teams that have a perfect record, then we'll have tracked the type of win. Did they win by resignation? Did they win by X number of victory cities and so forth? But hopefully that may or may not become an issue, but we'll have rules for it in case that it does. And we'll make sure that everybody's aware of how those are going to work, but it should be pretty straightforward. But I hope that makes sense. The other thing that I really want to make sure is when you go to Gen Con or some other events, like it feels like all you have time to do is that thing, right? You don't have time to hang out with anybody. You don't have time to try any other games. You don't have any energy to try any other games because you've just spent 14 hours like plowing through, 2 games in a row. And so it can be draining. So one of the things that I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to do, we're going to be building the schedule accordingly, is that no matter what tournament you're playing in, you'll always have an opportunity in your schedule to try other things. You want to take the demo for Imperial Borders or for Stalingrad. You want to make sure that you make the signing session with Larry Harris and to get your picture taken and to do, or you just want to sit around and chill with your friends at the bar, which is like right across the hall from the convention space. Cool. We want to make sure that there's an opportunity for everybody to do those things in addition to participating in really high level Axis and Allies play, right? So I hope that that makes sense. So there'll be 3 games of 42 Second Edition. There'll be 3 games of Anniversary. There'll be 3 games of Global, so that everybody has an opportunity, 1 on each day, so that everybody has an opportunity to try out like all of the other incredible games that we're going to have available there to play. And if you just want to set up and play another casual game of Anniversary, well then, okay, go do that. That's cool too. For you straight up junkies out there, it's okay with me. But anyway, I think that's cool. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Doug's been ever so patiently hanging out in the wings here. Let's bring him in. Everybody say hi, Doug.
Hey, Gary. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
It's good to be here. There you go.
Excellent. Excellent. I've set up hotkeys since the last time we were doing this, so I'm going to be a little quick. Clever. Hopefully, anyway, a little quicker on the draw when it comes to getting the sound effects and ready to go here. Brian hit us with a question right away here. I was curious if the minis are still in production. I recall seeing them a while ago, but they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. They have not been in production for quite some time, unfortunately. I'm hoping that Renegade sees the opportunity there and decides to jump at that and decides to take that on as a new project. I think that'd be very cool. But unfortunately, it is not available on retail right now. There's a secondary market for them, but there's nobody making them right now.
Sorry, we'll have to comment in the chat.
Yeah. If Gary Blevins is Superman, then Alex Thorpe is Kryptonite. Okay, so
let's
talk about this real quick. Real quick. We got a lot to go through today, but I just want to talk about something real quick. We tried a live stream from the Spring Gathering last June 5th, I guess would have been the date. And we said that we were going to play Lord of the Rings Risk, which we did. We set it up. We had all the cameras. And unfortunately, the Wi-Fi at the hotel that we were at wasn't strong enough to support the live stream. And so my understanding from people who were watching it is that it was really jumpy and it was hard to follow. And I'm sorry for that. It was completely out of our control. And worse than that, it ended, the live stream cut off. Didn't tell me on site, by the way. I thought the live stream was still going. The live stream cut off before the game actually ended. I reposted the video, I think the next week, with the entire game in it with some graphics and stuff so that it made a little bit more sense. But Alex Thorpe, Doug's number 1 son, who was playing with Robin, they were playing the bad guys in Lord of the Rings Risk, and Doug and I were valiantly playing the good guys in that game. And we were playing a version of the game that if the bad guys were in a space with the One Ring as it was moving from the Shire to Mordor and to Mountain Dew, if the bad guys were in the space at the end of their turn, then they had to roll 2 dice. And if they happened to roll a 12, they win the game because they find the ring, right? And we'd been playing for about 2 hours at that point. And the ring was maybe 60% of the way or so from the Shire to Mordor. And Alex had not rolled once, right? It had been, Robin had a chance to roll a couple of times, but he had missed it. But the very first time Alex had a chance to pick up the dice and try to find the ring, then the thing is, he did it so nonchalantly. Like he just picked up 2 dice and just like, 12. And that was immediately after I had attacked Minas Tirith. He had taken Minas Tirith, and I had tried to take it back. He only had 3 guys there. He had 3 guys in Minas Tirith with a leader. I came in with 22 guys. No, I came in with 14 guys and a leader. I lost everything in that battle. And then immediately drew a card that, had I controlled Minas Tirith, would have given me another 10 guys. So yes. And then the very next turn, Alex rolls and kills us.
Yeah.
I was like,
a minute later.
I was over it. I about flipped the table. It was terrible. It was bad. It was not good.
Oh, so fun.
Alex and Robin had a good time. There's no doubt about that. But it was brutal. I think the game was mad because I was giving it away. I think that's what the problem was.
That could be
I think that's really what happened.
Then
the
Alex
ring was mad at me.
Easy.
Right.
This is
yes,
comment.
Yes. Right. Anyway, so real quick, how's Doug's audio? Everybody, real quick, how's he sound in this? Because this has been the problem we've had in the past. It's not being balanced between the two of us.
Things not syncing correctly between us.
That the audio levels are screwy from one side to the other. But I hope that's working out.
So real quick on the minis for War at Sea, if I remember correctly, when they decided to stop printing that, Greg Smory got his hands on like the leftover stock that they had, which was a lot, but not like an incredible amount. And he's been giving them away slowly at tournaments over years. And I think he just ran out recently. So
that's exactly right.
Like slowly trickling out there through the tournaments that he's done on War at Sea.
Yeah, I think he had the last like inventory of them. He told me they sent him a couple of boxes worth of the pieces for it, and unfortunately he apparently has run out. So what's out there is out there. I'm sure there's people on the secondary market that may or may not be willing to part with them. I don't know. I don't own any of them, so that's what we've got. But okay, so I brought you all here today because let me tell you how this all came to be. I think this is very cool, and I'm grateful that everybody's here to help me fulfill this this request. So I got an email from a young man named Jasper at some place in the UK, and he told me that he is a high school junior, in 11th grade was what he said, and that let me just read it here. I'm an 11th grade student in the UK and came across your YouTube channel while trying to find an experienced Axis and Allies player to interview. I have just started my A-level computer science coursework. For this coursework, I'm creating a new online implementation for Axis and Allies. Okay. I'm immediately intrigued.
I like this kid already.
No doubt, right? I like this kid already. I like where your head's at. The coursework requires that I ask 6 questions. These would be on topics like what you think about implementation of the game, anything you think could be improved, and then incorporate these factors into the design process. If you could spare a few minutes, so on and so forth. So I immediately, I think within 5 minutes, said, yes, let's do that. That sounds fantastic. And so he sent me a series of questions, and I took a little bit of time thinking about how I was going to answer these questions. Then I thought, wait, I know a bunch of people who already know how to play this and might be able to have some thoughts to share. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about what the current available options are, because his first question, let me drop it in the chat here, see if I can do this correctly, make sure that this works. So what you're going to see is me commenting, but it's from Jasper. Okay, so Jasper's first question: have you played the Steam, AAA, or tabletop simulator versions of the game? If so, how do you think they compare to the board game? Okay. Doug, I'm going to let you start. There's a lot here. There's an hour's worth of stuff just unpacking that question. We're not going to spend that much time on it. But,
yeah.
But let's go ahead and take them off.
I'll try to take these in order. Steam is the Beamdog 1942 second edition version.
Right.
And I've commented on this, on some of our videos in the past. I think that they did a pretty good job recreating the game. I think it's very good as far as putting it in an asynchronous computer program. I think that I'm not the biggest fan personally. I've been, again, honest about that in the past. I think that there are things that the game kind of does for you that normally when I'm used to playing over the board or face to face, you have to know how to do these things. And the computerized version does those things for you. So some of the things I think of are, some of the math. Airplane movement is one of the biggest things. You don't have to know how to move airplanes. You can just click on them and move around the board, and it'll show you where they can and can't make it to and make it out of. Even if you have no idea where the airplane can land, you can do the attack and then figure it out later. So there's some things like that I don't love about it. And then I find in most versions, the loading and unloading of transports is very convoluted. I think it's one of the biggest weaknesses in any version that I've played. AAA is a little bit different. AAA has some things that I like better about it, and some things that it doesn't have the cool sound effects and some of the little nuances that are pretty nice. The rolling and stuff like that. You don't get to see that stuff play out, kind of simulating the live experience, the real experience over the board. But again, there's that like kind of asynchronous play. It'll tell you can't do a thing, but you kind of have to figure out the why behind it. And again, loading and unloading transports is just like, no, I want the guys to go on this transport and not that transport. And I want, 2 guys here and a tank here and another guy there or something like that. And it's just, it's like you can't load your men and then your other units. What I always do is I'll load my tanks and my artillery first, because it forces you to put one in a boat, and then I'll load the infantry. And then like stuff like when you move, if you do a big attack, particularly you're moving your fleet in with a bunch of airplanes. If you do a bunch of stuff like that at the same time, or a big land battle, you can't remove like one unit unless you move them individually. You can only remove them from a battle as you move them in. So there's like a lot of little quirks like that are pretty annoying. I think that I don't want to be parse too many words here. I think they're different enough, at least the Beamdog version, that it's slightly a different game. I think AAA is actually closer to the tabletop version than the Beamdog version in a few ways. But I think you could have someone who's really good over the board and not very good online. And I think you could have someone who's very good online and not very good over the board. And I think they're just that different. And it's not just the medium by which you're playing, although that's a big part of it. I think there's enough divergence in the way the games work and the way things play out and the way you pick casualties that it actually changes the game significantly. Those are my not so succinct thoughts. In a nutshell.
Yes, in a very large nutshell. So I will say that I have played all three. I have played Beamdog, I have played AAA, and I have played Tabletop Simulator. And so I will say, so hot take, maybe an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to tell you what I think about it. I like the Beamdog software. Like I agree with Doug. I think they did a good job. I think that they made some odd rules changes that I don't understand. Like,
yeah,
the friendly aircraft carrier can't, or friendly fighters can't land on a friendly aircraft carrier. Okay, why? Like that's a pretty key strategy for the Axis, or for the Allies rather, right? Like that's something that happens pretty frequently,
Yeah,
and that has a
is it a programming error or limitation, or is it just they changed the rule intentionally?
yeah. I had the opportunity pretty early on to do an interview with Trent Oster, who I believe was and no longer is the CEO of Beamdog. He might still be. I'm not 100% sure about that, but he was the CEO of Beamdog at the time. And I asked him that question, and he didn't really have an answer. I don't know that if they did it on purpose or if it was just something that a developer, like someone who was writing the code, like just made the choice.
Yeah.
Not knowing, you know, maybe it was just a mistake and they just decided to roll with it because that's what they were doing. Or maybe they thought it was a balance issue, right? This is before they had the Larry Harris 3.0 setup ability, right, as an option when they first wrote the code. And so maybe they saw it as a balance issue that they could, you know, give the Axis a little bit of help. But anyway, so I think that you're right. I think it's a bit of a different game. It's not dramatically different, I wouldn't say, but there's a few things in there that do make a difference. I think you're right. When you click on an air unit, it shows you all of the available options. And I've actually seen strategy videos recently from online gaming, Axis and Allies online play content creators suggesting that as a beginner strategy. Like, first thing you do is click on your air unit and see every place it can go. And those are your available attack positions. Like,
yeah.
That's a big strategic help, right? Like, that's not a thing that you can do on a board, right? So I think from that point of view, it's fairly significantly different. Tabletop Simulator, I think, is if you've never used Tabletop Simulator, it's a well-designed software, but it is just like a legitimate 3D sandbox where you just get all these pieces, and like whoever designs them, like they put in a PDF map and it turns it into a map that you can physically click on and move pieces from place to place. And you can click on dice to make them roll, and you can turn over cards depending on whatever game you're playing or whatever. But it is completely manual. Like, there's no automation to it really at all. And so if you want like the straight up board game experience online, Tabletop Simulator is it, right? Like, because all you're doing is playing. If you don't touch it, it doesn't do anything. Like, it's nothing. But it's, at the same time, it's hard to manipulate all the chips when you want to move from place to place. And it does have a couple of like stack, functions to it, but it's still pretty basic. And at the same time, like, you can play Wingspan, or you can play Catan, or you can play any game that's ever been loaded up on there. And it's a really useful tool for game developers because they can make prototypes of games in that space, like, because it's just this kind of easy to use sandbox. The third one that's in there is AAA. And here's the unpopular opinion. I played AAA, I don't know, late 2000s probably. And I found it clunky. I found it glitchy. And I found it hard to use. And then when I stopped messing with it, I got further along, and then I actually had the chance to meet Larry Harris, and I had the chance to work with Renegade and like see what it takes to support this franchise. And I got to say, like, everybody's asking Beamdog to make, Anniversary, or to make Global, or to have somebody else come along and make these things. But the market does what the market does. The market has to fill a gap. And if there's this product that's out there that's free, that everybody's okay with, or enough people are okay with, that they wouldn't go out and spend the money to buy or to pay for a software, then there's no market to go do that. So don't get me wrong, I appreciate the work that the AAA folks have done. I think it's great. I think they kept the franchise alive for a lot of people, but it's really hard. If I'm a software developer, I own a software company. okay, I want to find a brand out there that I can make a piece of software about that people will buy. So, okay, let's look at Axis and Allies. We know there's a lot of people playing it. Renegade just did this big reprint. There's a lot of people that are interested in the game. And so now let's look at it. Okay, who are my competition? Okay, well, Beamdog, but seems to have abandoned the product, right? Like it's not functioning on the iPad anymore. It's still working on Steam, but it's kind of a mess. And they're clearly not interested in doing anything else. They got sold a couple of years ago, and since then, it's clearly not been a priority for whoever's in charge over there now. Which is unfortunate because, like you said, I think they did a pretty good job with it. And when I had the interview with Trent Oster, like he seemed all about like making Anniversary, making Global, and making 1914, and making the Classic, and doing all of those things. And he was right. He said it's based on sales. Like if this takes off, there's the money that we need to develop the next version of the game, right? So to me, like I think AAA is great, but I think that because it's out there and because it's free, there's not a market for a company to come in and make a thing because they can't make any money at it because there's this other product out there that's everybody is using for free, right?
Yeah.
That's
fair point.
It's kind of a nasty catch-22, right? I'm not telling people not to use AAA, not by any stretch. If you like it, use it. But at the same time, like it's hard to be mad at the market for not filling this hole that is being filled by somebody else for free. And because I know Larry Harris and because I appreciate the brand, like I'm not going to I have no idea whether or not there's been intellectual property infringement or not. I don't think there has because I don't think anybody's getting paid. And I think that's the primary, like, you can't prove harm, right? So I'm not even going to get into that because I don't know enough about it to even speculate. But that's why I don't use it now. I don't use it now because I want to make sure that when I'm playing this game, that the people who have supported and developed this game from the beginning are compensated for their work. And so that's why I get that might be an unpopular opinion. And like I said, I've got nothing but love for my friends that play this and use it for all different kinds of events and trials and all kinds of stuff. I think that's great. But I think that's the secondary effect that product is having on the market. So,
yeah,
hot take.
I think it's a really good point. It's a very good point. You can whip up some random extra maps in a thing like AAA really easy, take the same rule set and apply it to it, and it doesn't take the actual work that it would take to develop a newer version of Axis and Allies or something like that.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. And there's just one of the questions that Jasper has in a little bit, but I know that there's Middle Earth maps in there, and there's maps for Vietnam, and there's maps for 72 other different platforms in there, some of which are like licensed material. But because no one's getting paid for it, right? Because it's all just kind of fan-created content and no one's collecting revenue for it, then there's not really an IP infringement as far as I can tell. Again, not a lawyer, not giving legal advice, don't know anything about it, but I think that's I should staple that on my forehead. Not legal advice, not a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, I think, Robin made a comment here, which is something I wanted to touch on also. Like, I actually remember your interview with the guy at Beamdog, and I'm not a computer programmer. I work with a lot of software engineers, and I know that software engineers will come and tell you that a thing's working for a year, and then they'll see that there's a bug in it somewhere. But I remember that guy swearing up and down that they've looked at the random number generator and it's random. But every time I have played the Beamdog version and someone has bombed a factory, a bomber has gotten shot out of the air. Not every time a bomber gets shot out of the air, but every time a bomber comes across an AA gun, it gets shot down. Like that can't be a coincidence. There's just no way. Like, and everybody's been in the battle where you're 95% chance to win and you lose, right? Right. 1 out of 20, that's going to happen. But that crazy stuff happens. I felt like it happened on Beamdog more than AAA. I mean, I've gotten crazy things happened on a AAA a few times, but like nothing like Beamdog. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah, the other thing that seemed weird in the dice for Beamdog was it felt like the offshore bombardments never hit. Like
that's interesting.
I must have missed with cruisers and battleships 80%, 90% of the time. Like I honestly like it. I just assumed that I stopped thinking that they were going to hit. I stopped counting them in my calculations because I just assumed that they wouldn't get hit. And I'm not a big fan of strategic bombing anyway, so like my bombers almost never, because I would never get into it. But you're right. The AA guns were brutal in that particular version. So
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So that is the other piece of that question. Everyone has been Gary at Minas Tirith.
Yeah, it's happened. Yeah.
Yes, I'm having flashbacks to Darmok and Picard at Tanagra, Gary at Minas Tirith. Anyway, so the other part of Jasper's question was how do they compare to the board game? And we're going to talk more about this in another question here, but I had the opportunity, just as Board Game Nation was launching, to interview Larry Harris, and I asked him specifically what he thought about online play, and I think he had the A answer, which is that they're just different, right? They're just different. That they one is not better or worse than the other; they're just different. And how are they different? Table presence makes a big difference, I will say. Being able to take 24 hours to make a move and run 72 calculators and click on a button that shows you where all the fighters can go and all the bombers can reach, like those are big differences between online and real play. Now, a little asterisk next to this question is, now how's that different from tournament play? Now factor in time and fatigue and the pressure of all of the madness that comes with trying to compete in a tournament against other people that you may or may not have ever met before. So you don't know anything about how they play or what their experience level is or anything like that. That's one of the things that happens to us. Like, people watch our videos, so when they sit down and like to play against us, like they have a pretty good idea what we're going to do, which is okay with me. I don't care. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question from Jasper. I'll bring this in here.
Yeah, I agree with Larry. I think they're just different.
Yeah. Robin, you cannot have Conquest of the Empire. You already got my Lord of the Rings Risk game. Shrimp Milk here. AAA is an open source, clear documentation, actively supported, and highly modal that should be considered. AAA can also be set up to reflect the board game more accurately than others. I think everything that you just said there is absolutely true.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely true. But I'm not going to play it. But that's okay. But if you like it, then absolutely go play it. I think that's fantastic.
Oh. I want to just make one more comment. Sorry on this last thing.
Sure,
How is it different? How is it different? How does it compare to the board game? I have a very hard time playing online on a computer screen. I think it's because I can't see enough. And when I have to scroll around and move stuff around, it's just like my brain, maybe it's just because I played Axis and Allies over the board for a long time. My brain doesn't work as well that way. I miss stupid stuff 10 times more when I play online than I do over the board. Now, I still miss stupid stuff over the board, but man, it's brutal. I mean, you remember that when we started playing on Beamdog, I was doing all sorts of dumb stuff. You're like, what's going on, Doug? Is Alex playing for you? Like, who's playing over there? Like, but it's just different for me. Like, visualizing it is very different also.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I think that the other thing is that when you're playing in person, you're often playing with another person, right? Versus playing online, even if you're playing on a team, they're not seeing unless you've set up something through Discord or you're sharing a screen with them or whatever. You're making that move on your own. And
Yeah.
so there's not really a good way to have someone else look over your shoulder and say, hey, that transport isn't doing what you think it's doing, right? Or what are you going to do with that battleship that you left sitting over there? You know that bomber can reach that thing, right? Like that's not a thing that is really possible
Yeah.
without overlays.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next question. You guys are absolutely killing me. Jasper, what says, what version of Access and Allies do you think has the broadest appeal for digital implementation? This is a tricky question. And I will say that my first thought is twofold. First is that 1942 Second Edition is the most popular, is the most sold copy of the game. Right. So like if you looked at just the retail sales of the physical game, that's the one that sells the most. Right. Now, are the people that play that willing to play Anniversary or play Global? Some are not. Okay. So I would say the easiest answer to your question is 1942 Second Edition is has the broadest appeal for digital implementation. However, Beamdog has already kind of filled that spot, but they don't seem like they're doing anything else. So if I were going to create a new Axis and Allies online implementation, digital implementation, it would be Anniversary, because I think that would be the next logical leap. The other alternative is 1941, and I know I'm going to get an eye roll from everybody that's on this. That's watching this, but you guys are all hardcore nut jobs like me. So yeah, but if you had the opportunity to play 1941 on your phone, this would have to be a mobile implementation. Like if it was just a thing that you could pass 15 minutes on while you were sitting on a bus or standing in line or whatever, like then you could play that very quickly. I could see that being a successful mobile application. I don't know how successful it would be on a desktop or laptop application. But I think that would be a possibility. But I think if you wanted the larger application, I think Anniversary is probably the A answer.
Yeah.
If I had to put my money down on, like, if you asked me to invest in a thing, it would be, I would say, are you doing the Anniversary edition? So.
Yeah, I agree. I think you make an interesting point about 41, just making it like a little mobile app type thing. Maybe that would draw more people into the game also. Like, oh, here's this cool game, download it, learn to play easy. Oh, there's bigger versions of this. But I would agree, Anniversary Edition is historically the version that people say is really, one of the best and really loves it. I mean, it actually could be interesting to see a version of Global made simply because I think one thing about Global is it's super intimidating to people, and you set the entire thing up and then, it takes a really long time to play. But if you had that electronically, that could be interesting because you don't have to set it up and you could play a little bit and then set it aside and pick it back up and stuff like that. But I agree, Anniversary I think is kind of the easy answer to that.
Yeah, so Jamie, my lovely bride, who is very smart, and Robin seems to agree with her here, is that maybe Stalingrad or Guadalcanal, since they're two-player games, might be easier to go digital. I think that is certainly a valuable consideration. And I tell you what, man, I think it would be cool if there was, like, to me, I think it would be cool is an Axis and Allies app that had all the campaign games in it, right? So like Guadalcanal and North Africa and Stalingrad and G.I. Joe and like all of the and D-Day and Battle of the Bulge, like if it had all of those in it, right? And I think that would be, an easier sell because you're getting a lot of value for it, right? Because you're getting 8-10 games in one, right? Like it's kind of the idea. So
yeah,
I think that's an interesting idea. Yeah, this is kind of your point, Doug, is that Mr. Coffee, I think Global would have broad reach as its biggest hurdle is the time commitment when it comes to the tabletop. Yeah, I think that's true, but at the same time, like we make this joke that it's that Axis and Allies Global is like set up the game, right? Like if you can set the game up correctly on your first try, you win, right? Or who has the first error, fewest errors, right? Then you win. But at the same time, like the game still does take a long time to play. Right?
Yeah. It does.
And I don't think there are nearly as many people who play global as who play the other versions of the game. Mm-hmm. So if I were going to, if you asked me to put my money down and say, which one of these do I think is going to fire the community up enough to create an ROI, I got to say Anniversary or 41 or an app that has all the campaign games in it. I think that would be that would be the hardest to design. The last one there, of course, would be the hardest to design and get all the licenses for and all that stuff. But if you can to me, but the theory is if you can get the license for Guadalcanal to do a digital implementation, then you're already talking to the people who are going to give you the one for North Africa and Stalingrad, and you're going to get all that. So I think that's a really good question. Thank you. Yes, Robin is an agent of chaos in the chat. He's just trying to make trouble. This is a good question. I really like this question. I'm curious what you think about this time. Jasper, what rules or aspects of the game do new players find the most confusing? Tell them, Doug.
I think it might go back to the thing about transports I was saying earlier that Beamdog and AAA seem to have a hard time with. I mean, I feel like it's simple to say, as a matter of fact, I think you and I talked about this once. It's simple to say a transport can take an infantry plus one other unit. But that seems to it doesn't seem to be as effective. That
melts people's brains.
Yeah, it's not that seems so simple. Infantry and an army, infantry and artillery, go on. Infantry
a guy
and
a thing. And carry a guy and a thing.
A guy and a thing, yeah. Infantry and an AA gun. But Water. People seem to not, it doesn't seem to click. I think that's definitely one of the hardest.
Yes.
One other that I would mention is probably something in the neighborhood of subs or what makes a hostile C zone blocking, can a sub block? Do you have to destroy a transport if you go through the C zone? This, that, and the other. Some of those naval movements that are a little more subtle would probably be the second thing that I would say.
So I've accidentally done a study on this.
Okay.
And I'm not kidding. This is a true story. So when the very first big video that I made was, and this is still me learning how to do it, and it took me months and months and months to get this done. And it was my very first how to play video, and it was for 1942 Second Edition for Axis and Allies. And it took me a long time, and it's an hour and 20 minutes long, but it's a full how to play, right? Like everything you need to know, lots of examples. It doesn't go real fast. It has real clear chapters, so you can kind of, go through it. And it's been successful. It's got a couple 100,000 views now, and a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of hours of watch time. A lot of people have bookmarked it. And so it's been a really successful video. But one of the other things that I did immediately following that was I created a series of videos for air combat, right? How do fighters work? How do they work with aircraft carriers? How do bombers work? How do bombers do industrial raids? And how does all that work? And so I have a series of air combat videos, and then I've got a series of sea combat videos that break down battleships and cruisers and offshore bombardment and amphibious assaults and transports and da-da-da-da-da. So this is how I accidentally did a study. If you go back now, and those all have been out for 4.5 years. If you go back now and look at the view counts of those videos, you can tell precisely which rules people are having trouble with.
Okay. So
and you nailed it exactly. It is transports with amphibious assaults, right? That whole got to do sea combat and then land combat and how that process works, right? And then subs and destroyers. That is the thing that screws everybody up. Now, in the online implementation of it, transports are the hardest thing because the computers will do the whole hostile, not hostile C-zone thing for you,
Yeah.
right? And it won't let you do land combat before you do the sea combat, right? It won't let you put an air unit in the land combat and the sea. It won't let you break a rule, right?
Yeah.
But if you're moving the piece around on your own, either in real life or in, say, Tabletop Simulator, then you can break all the rules you want. Like you flip the table over, it wouldn't matter. So so you can tell. So yes. So if you go back, you can see that the transports and amphibious assaults and the subs and destroyers are the thing that the most people have questions with. Yeah. And I also got a ton of those questions as comments in the 42-second edition videos.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's like some games are you have to be good at the game, and other games are you have to be good at the rules of the game. And then some games are kind of in the middle, if that makes any sense at all. Like diplomacy is a really good example. You can do whatever you want in diplomacy. You can write down whatever order you want. If you play on there's different online versions of that. You can move your guy from the bottom of the board to the top of the board to let you do whatever you want. When it comes to execution of orders, your piece isn't going to do anything. Like if you're not following the rules, similarly in Axis and Allies, if you're playing over the board, you can do stuff that you think is going to pan out after the combat or after the non-combat move, but it's not going to. Whereas like online, it kind of like does all those rules for you. And not to say that you don't have to think, but it becomes way more of a straight calculation game. Way more of a math, and if I move my guy here one round and there next round I can get him, as opposed to can I even do this move that I'm trying to do.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, for sure. So that makes sense. All right, moving on. Lots to get through here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, Tom's got a good point here. Yes, not following the rules of diplomacy can also be a strategic decision. Stand by for our coverage of the U.S. Nationals diplomacy event from Gen Con last year. We're working on that video now, and this exact instance comes up in the very first round. In fact, in that game. So keep an eye on that. Thank you, Tom.
I'm really excited about that video, by the way. Like I'm really excited about that video.
I'm really excited about getting it done because it's a beast, right? So the trick with that video is, for anybody who hasn't know what I'm talking about, we recorded all of the individual conversations while they were actively negotiating in this championship level game of diplomacy, which is very cool, and I love this idea. And we showed up and we got it all done, and it's fantastic. But now it's a matter of untangling this bowl of spaghetti to find the storylines, right? So why did Italy do this? What happened when Austria did this? Was that intentional? How did that? And then finding the conversation to go with that movement, right? It's tricky. It's very, very hard. So we're working on it.
It's almost like what would it really be like to really know what all the world leaders are saying and thinking in real life behind closed doors with everything.
We put a hot mic on all the diplomats, all right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, we're going to see how it works out. Hopefully it works. Hopefully it doesn't take me the rest of the year to get this done. We recorded it almost a year ago now, and we've been working on trying to put it together. So, but next week it's our primary focus. We've been doing a lot of work on Battlefront Dayton this week. But we do have a video coming out tomorrow, actually, which is Doug and I's very first game at the Spring Gathering. We played together at the Spring Gathering in the anniversary tournament, and we got paired with Dave Collins and his number one son, and had a really good game with him. So we've got that video coming out tomorrow morning. It should be as soon as we're done here tonight. I'm going to hit render. It's a bit of a longer video, but you can watch it on whatever speed you want. But it's the raw footage but sped up with some music. But I stopped it when we were rolling so that you can hear what we're saying when we're rolling, so that you can know actually what's following in the game. Anyway,
I don't know if I want to relive this game, Gary.
Yeah, so I'm going to, no
If there's a
spoilers.
thumbs down on the video, it might be me.
Right, right. So, no spoilers, but something that happened at the table that I did not see at the time. Did not see it at the time. When I was putting the video together, I saw something that literally dropped my mouth open because it is just pretty unbelievable. And Dave's a good player. Doug and I are good players. This happened at the table. None of us saw it. And I'll just leave you with that. It's pretty ridiculous. You'll see it when you get there. Teaser. Go watch the video. Watch it all the way to the end. And we'll see how it all plays out. Great tea. Yes, you're absolutely right. I was there last year, and yeah, the diplomacy setup was ambitious. It absolutely is ambitious. We had mics on everybody, and it was a 4-camera setup. It was a lot. We're a little off topic here, but is there any talk of a new official a game? If there was a new version on Steam with mod support, it would be awesome. Restricting the game to one rule set and the map is very limiting. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about like a proper version of the game, other than like the campaign games that we've been doing, like Stalingrad and North Africa and G.I. Joe and stuff like that. Battle for the Deep. So no, I haven't heard anything about that, but I think that there are a lot of versions of the game that involve all different kinds of rule sets. So I don't know that there's, I mean, and by no stretch of the imagination do I think that any of the games are solved. So I think that there's plenty still to play in the games that we have. At least I'm still learning, and I'm still enjoying playing them. But yeah. But yes, we'll see. This is a good question, and I'm going to tell you that I don't know specifically. Also, is the Axis and Allies on Tabletop Simulator licensed from Larry Harris, and it's Hasbro actually, or does that have the same issues as AAA? I believe that they do have to get the license from the different game companies. So if you're going to play Wingspan on there, you need a license from Tabletop Simulator. Needs a license from Stonemaier Games. If you're going to play Catan, you need a license from them. And so I'm sure that Hasbro has licensed Tabletop Simulator, as far as I know, because you have to pay for it, right? Like Tabletop Simulator is not free. Like you've got to pay for your, I don't know if I think it's a subscription or maybe you buy the software. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how it works. But yeah. But yeah, and apparently, and Tom Haver would know this, Gary's correct. Renegade just licensed Arboretum, which, by the way, if you have not played this game, this is actually a really nice, fun game. Arboretum, it's a cool, like, sit and have a glass of wine and play with your friends kind of conversation game. It's a very pretty game. It's very nice. We found a copy the other day at a swap meet, and it's a beautiful little game. You should absolutely play it. It's nice. It's a nice light game. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, Milk. Yeah, you're talking about online play. Yeah, I think you're right. Don't get me wrong. The more access knowledge, the better, right? The more people we can get playing, I think that's fantastic. Oh, that's something I did not know. The games are paid per play on Tabletop Simulator. So the more frequently it gets used, the more money the company makes. That's cool. Didn't know that.
Yeah, I've not used Tabletop Simulator. It's not something that I've messed around. I've heard about it, but I haven't done anything with it.
All right. Next question. What do you think about asynchronous play?
I think that this is one of the things that makes it a different game. I think it's a huge aspect of it. I've said this in other videos, like a lot of the premise behind the Thorpe Thump is when you get in deep with America, you have to be very precise in what casualties you choose. And I've tried, maybe I'm not successful, maybe there's a better way to do it, but like you can't just set the computer to lose your bombers first and leave your infantry. But you can't set the computer to take your cheapest pieces because then you won't take the islands. Like there's just some things like that are nuances to the game. Like in one of our games, we did a naval battle that went horribly for us, and we were tempted to lose a destroyer and a fighter, but we realized in the moment that we couldn't lose the destroyer, or else someone could blitz through and get some stuff. And like if you're playing an asynchronously, you can't make those types of decisions, and I think it makes it a different game, in my opinion. I would be very interested, like on Steam. I can get on Steam and I can play Wingspan with my buddies. Now, I know Wingspan's a little different, because there's not as much interaction, but they're online, I'm online, we're on we have our earbuds in, we're talking to each other, shooting the breeze while we play Wingspan. Why couldn't a version of Axis and Allies be made like that? So, when casualties, you have 30 seconds to choose your casualties or something like that. And then it goes to some default. Like, I think you could do something like that. But I think it makes it a different game.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder, there is this group that is the International Axis and Allies Player Association, and they do play by mail or play by email. And they just started a tournament, actually, like a big organized, I don't know how many people they have involved in it, but they have a play by email method that I think would be interesting to kind of explore. I don't know how it works. If you've got to have, I don't know if they're playing that through AAA or if they're using like boards set up in everybody's houses or how that all works. But I've played chess by mail before, long ago, but I don't know exactly how that would work. As anybody that's watching this, have you ever played Axis and Allies by mail or by email? If you are, let us know, because I'd be interested to see how that would work. But, or if you're a member of the International Axis and Allies Players Association, please let us know.
I kind of feel like we should be a part of that. Sounds pretty official.
It does sound very official, and they do have like officers, and it's a whole thing. But all they do is the play by mail. That I've seen. They don't host any in-person events. Apparently, they used to. They don't anymore. And so it's just kind of this core group of folks that play the by email, which is great. I think that's cool.
We should just make an organization that has a longer, more official sounding, the Global Transnational Official Axis and Allies, Real Axis and Allies Players Association.
Right. Of America. Right.
Of America. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Of Southern Indiana.
Right. And Western Tennessee. Like just
Western Tennessee, yeah.
The acronym runs all the way down the sleeve. I can see the t-shirts now. All right. Okay. Next question from Jasper. What features would you most want to see in a digital implementation?
I think I just named one, the ability to do non-asynchronous play.
Yes, I agree. One of the things that's missing from, I'm trying to ignore him. I'm not, I swear. One of the things that I feel like is missing from the Beamdog software without an overlay is voice communication with your team or with another team or anything like that. And I get why they stayed away from that, because it's tricky, because you get minors involved, you get people that are, now all of a sudden it's Fortnite and people are screaming all kinds of terrible things at each other. And so it's all of a sudden stops being a family game. And it gets a little tricky when it comes to that. But if you could set it up in a way that it was like invite only, and you could like essentially incorporate the Discord voice communication capability in the software. I think that would be really helpful and really useful, particularly for, the kind of things that you're talking about. Like I want to play with Doug and Charles and Robin and Tracy and somebody new that's in Australia, and this is the easiest way for us to do that, right? Like it would be able to facilitate those kinds of things. It wouldn't be great for like an open lobby. Like of course Beamdog, and I don't know, I assume AAA has this ability to match players against each other. But so in those instances, I can see why you wouldn't want the voice, because it's a little tricky, dangerous. But if it's invite only, then I think that would be fine. I think that'd be a cool thing to see. No, you may not, Tracy. Sorry. No, sorry. No. All right. Are you guys accepting new members of the IATFC? International Alex Thorpe Fan Club? No, we are not. All right. Next question from Jasper. Here we go. Ooh, that's actually an interesting point, Shrimp. In chess, you can set up conditional moves that can be used for asynchronous play, but could pre-select casualties based on outcomes. That would be an interesting thought, versus just like the defense profiles that we have now. Do you remember? Can somebody tell me how this works on AAA? So is it the same? Like you've got defense profiles, so that when you're not there, that they.
I think so.
It auto selects the.
You can. I'm not going to be a good resource, but I think there's like different ways. It's like you can choose the cheapest unit to the most expensive unit type thing, or you can like literally order them. I think you can see, I'm just not even sure if there's a setting off the top of my head that's like, hey, if I attack a territory with an amphibious assault, I have to take the territory. So to like lose your infantry and your artilleries, keep one tank, and then it'll get into your fighters. Like, I don't even know if that's an option off the top of my head. So,
right. So that would be important. But no, that's an interesting idea, so that you could specifically say, take these losses in the event of this outcome. I think that would be really helpful. All right. Next up from Jasper. You know what would be fun, my friends in the chat, if you tried to answer the questions that Jasper was asking. That would be fantastic. This kid's got homework to do, and he's counting on you to share your feedback here. Next from Jasper, what are some features that you think are unnecessary for digital implementation?
Maybe what you just suggested about voice. Just call your buddy, get him on your phone.
Right. I mean, you can overlay the Discord. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, like, then you can just open up a Discord server and have your conversations with them. Or we actually have a couple of voice channels set up for that thing on the Board Game Nation Discord server. Link coming in the chat here momentarily. That's free, that anybody can get into. There's some member-only spaces for that, but for the most part, a big, I'd say 80% or 85% of the server is open to the public, including the Finder player. So people can kind of get in there and find players, and they can also find games. And then there's a voice channel in there so that people can actually talk to people while they're playing. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is a thing that isn't necessary. It's more of a nice to have, I suppose, than a must have.
I think this is a harder question to answer than the first one, because the more I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking of things I should have said in the previous one. Like, I mean, again, necessary, unnecessary are kind of strong terms, but like, I think being able to do a bid and modify the initial setup is necessary. I actually think it's fun to play with like the weapon developments and the technology occasionally, but again, that's not necessary. But I think so maybe that would fall in the unnecessary category. You don't have to have the technologies, but I think it's cool to have that as an option.
Right. It would certainly be nice to be able to do that. You know what else would be a nice thing to implement that would be easier to, that I think would be easier, much easier to do than the voice implementation that I just said, is to actually build in a proper calculator.
Yeah.
Like a proper battle calculator. So if I send all these guys in and I say, calculate the odds of this, it'll show me that this is a 63% chance or a 4% chance or whatever the hell it is. Without this, like, Beamdog has this like improbable, probable, strong, favorable, whatever. And half the time it's wrong. It's like I have found that to be completely unreliable. Maybe I'm doing something wrong with it, but I have found that to be completely useless. Battles where I'm looking at it and I know I'm a huge favorite, it'll say improbable. Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense.
AAA has a pretty robust built-in calculator that you can, it's like a whatever Control C or whatever it is for control calculator or something like that. That'll bring up a thing and you can do quite a bit with it.
Yeah. All right.
I would think math is math, but I'm always interested how different calculators have different results. Usually they're pretty close to one another, but I'm like, somebody's either I'm using these things wrong or somebody's got something goofy in the back end of their calculator that's not quite the same.
Yeah, and some will do like 10,000 calculations and others will do like 100 or whatever. So yeah, but you're right. They're usually pretty close, but sometimes they're a little bit different. All right.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that's like really unnecessary.
I don't think so. This is something that I would like to see somebody create. Maybe Dave Skelly, something like that. Not just for Guadalcanal, but also like North Africa. Like, if you know how hard it is to calculate the odds after you've been doing odds for Axis and Allies for 200 years. Now all of a sudden you give me a D10 and I've got to like. You'd think that'd be easier. You'd think the D10 would be easier to sort out because now it's pretty well straight, percentages.
Yeah.
But it's not, because there's all kinds of little picadillos in the rules for that. Like, this thing's got to retreat after one round. This one's going to target tanks. This one's going to target air units. This one's like, it's a whole thing. So yeah, so I would love a battle calculator for North Africa. I'm not gonna lie. That'd be good. But no, that's a good call, Rob. Okay. Next up from Jasper. What would an ideal competitive mode online look like? I will say this is one thing that I think Beamdog did really well. I think that the ladder system that they built that runs in seasons, so that it's not just like somebody gets up there and camps for the next 7 years or something. I forget exactly how long the seasons are. I think they're 3 months or something like that. And that they're broken out by allied. Like, they have an allied rating and an Axis rating, which I think makes sense. They're individual ratings, not team ratings, which I think also makes sense. And so I think that's one thing that they've done really well, is built that kind of competitive model in there. And it creates enough drama each season to see who's going to come in first, if you're going to make the top 10, all that kind of stuff. And there's thousands of people that play it, so the ladders are actually pretty competitive. But they're I won't say that they're only, but they're playing 42 online, or 1942 second edition. They're, slightly modified version of it, like we talked about before. So the strategies have a tendency to be, the meta is pretty ingrained, right? Like, it's the Germans are almost always buying 11 infantry, 2 artillery, like every time. The Russians are buying their 4 infantry and 2 artillery, or 2 tanks, or whatever it is that they're. I think 2 tanks is
4 and 3, 4 and 2.
I think it's 3 artillery. I think is their preferred. But there's just not a lot of the content of it that I've watched. There doesn't seem to be a lot of gamble in it, right? Like, no one's buying the second German carrier, right? Like, nobody's doing that. Nobody's buying 6 transports on turn 1 for anybody, that kind of stuff. So it seems a little, it feels a little rote.
Is there bidding in that?
No.
No. Okay. I couldn't remember.
No, they're playing Larry Harris 3.0. So it's fairly close, but I
Yeah.
think that's why they're rated separately.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking Trent, because he has all the statistics of like
Mm-hmm.
which side wins more often than the other. And I believe what he told me that it was 56% to the Axis.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Um, and that was after however many thousands and thousands of games. That
Mm-hmm.
game was pretty well set to 56%, 56 or 58%. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was slightly favored Axis. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
anyway, how dare I? What are you talking about? I think Charles is trying to catch up. He's still mad at me about. I think he's commenting about the AAA. I think he's still catching up because I think he just got here. So yeah, so I think that is probably. I think that model that they have is really, really good. I'm not familiar with what the AAA model looks like. If they have what their competitive model looks like, I will tell you one thing that I would love to do. I am not going to do it this year at Battlefront Dayton, but one of the things that I've always wanted to try to do is a hybrid tournament, in person and online,
Mm.
to give people the opportunity all over the world to play in these, figure out a way to make it so that they can play the in person with cameras and all that kind of stuff, kind of like we did with Gary and Doug versus the World.
Oh yeah.
But then also have an online, like through Beamdog or through AAA or through whomever. So to make that a thing. But anyway, so I think that would be very cool. But that's down the road. There's no doubt about that. You've bought 2 German carriers, Charles, in 42nd edition. I'm gonna go with a no. You are a crazy person, though. If anybody's going to do it, it's probably you. All right. And this is our last question from Jasper. Let us see what he says here. And I think my AAA friends are going to have an answer for this one. Is there an appetite for customizable maps and rules? I think this is something that we've talked about a couple of times here. I think the answer to that question is absolutely yes. I think the simplest and the most critical modification or customizable option would be the ability to change the map based on a bid, to have a bidding process at the beginning of the game that allows players to then add pieces to the map prior to the start of the game based on the outcome of that bid. I think that would be the thing that we would like to, as tournament players. This is the thing we would like to see the most, because it definitely impacts tournament play, right? Yeah. So if you wanted to practice getting used to tournament play, then you need to be able to see what happens if I get a bid +5 or +12 or +0 or whatever. Like, so being able to, 0 you can do because there's no modification required, but you understand what I mean. So I think that would be the thing that I would want to see. Most of the thing that I would want to see available most. But playing in like a Lord of the Rings map would also be cool too. Like playing on Middle Earth and playing on Mars or whatever, or being able to customize a map, right? I think that would be cool too. Or to build your own. Like, I'm gonna build my own map, and because this is how HeroScape works, right? They've got hundreds of different maps that like are auto-generated that then they assemble and make into a thing when they play in tournaments. So that's how HeroScape works. So their maps are always different, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the fact that there's a lot of house rules and there's multiple variants that are pretty popular of global show that there's an appetite for rule options. I'm not, other than AAA and there being different maps there, I'm not that familiar with a lot of map adjustments. There's some out there I've seen here and there. But I think the rule sets are definitely, people have been talking for years about how do you make a cruiser a worthwhile unit to purchase, adding the AA feature, or, it gets to bombard for 2 rounds instead of 1, or whatever the adjustment is. It can carry an infantry unit, like
That's the one.
There's a lot of there's a lot of appetite, I think, for optional rules, and I think there's enough out there that have at least been play tested, maybe somewhat regionally or whatever, but there's some that keep sticking out over time, over different people posting online that seem to crop up. So I assume there's been some level of play testing to some of those variants.
Yeah, and I think a clever coder could set up a pretty extensive menu of like optional rules. Like, do you want to use the technology that comes with that's in the rule book, right? Yes, no. Do you want to have cruisers be able to carry one guy? Yes, no. Do you want them to be able to have an offshore bombardment shot in the second round of combat? Yes, no, right? Like, it seems like a clever coder could be able to put all that together.
Yeah.
But I will say then, I don't know if Hasbro would approve the license to do that, because now you're actively modifying their product. That gets tricky, right? So I don't know how that would all work, but certainly a thought. All right. So all of that being said, what are, of all of those questions, and now I ask the audience here, like, what did we get wrong? Let me, that's the easiest thing to ask the internet. Internet, what did we get wrong? So how do we make online marketable? How do we make it available? How do we entice computer software manufacturers, to people who make and design all these things?
Your lighting just got crazy.
I think I just got hacked. I don't know what just happened there. Robin, knock it off.
In Knoxville.
That is weird. That is very strange. I don't know what just happened right there.
I don't remember what I was just going to say. I was going to say something. Yeah, it's like...
Oh my God. This is getting... Something's gone. Robin, what have you done?
Robin did something.
Okay.
Charles said an interesting thing. Most important to him is really solid AI. That would be really interesting, turning recent AI loose on Axis and Allies.
I'm going to disappear for a second. I'll be right back. You keep going. I'm
kind of afraid it would just break the game. Like, would it see, like the chess engines have gotten so good that a human could never beat them? Like, would it see paths to victory that have never been or rarely been thought of, and optimize it to the point where it's like, okay, now everybody's playing.
Would they break our game?
Openings. Yeah. Would it break the game?
Right. I remember I brought this up with Trent Oster when we were doing the interview, because one of the things that we had talked about was the idea of like, because the Beamdog AI is good for like beginners, right? To get used to moving the pieces around and like making basic strategy choices and so forth. But beyond that, it's pretty easy to blow it up. And it's pretty scripted. Like, it's got its German strategy, it's its Japanese strategy. It knows, like, it loves its infantry, tank, fighter, bomber. If it's not in Moscow on turn 6, it doesn't know what to do, right? Like, that's just how it works. Right?
Bully it, but then it has like 50 guys sitting in Norway. You're like, what's going on here?
Right, it does weird things like that. So we had talked about like different AI profiles that you could pick from, like the old Command and Conquer game, which I loved. Right, I absolutely loved this PC game. And yes, I don't know what happened right there. That was pretty weird. I've never seen that before. That was a new one for me. But you could pick like somebody that was like a much more aggressive player or a much more conservative player, or like somebody who had different strategies and tactics that you could test yourself against. And I remember him making a similar comment to what you just said there, Doug, which is that like, he's not sure what would happen if like they introduced AI to this. Like, all of a sudden there'd be this like brilliant American Brazil strategy that no one's ever thought of before. And we're all just like, I don't even know what to like, What? How? Why? Huh? We're building a complex in Morocco? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's um, certainly possible. But to me, the big difference between Axis knowledge and chess is the dice, right? Like we can have our particular 912 attacks, like in 1942, the Soviet opening. That's fine. Or we can have a Thorpe Thump opening and we can do all those things. But like the game never plays out exactly the same because you lose in Pearl Harbor or you miss you've got a 75% chance to go into London on turn 2 and all your guys get shot down in the AA guns, right? Like these
May or
things
may not
happen.
have happened to us recently.
That may or may not have been a thing that just happened to us. Anyway, yeah, that's true. You're right about this, Charles. I'd much rather see a great AI that I can't beat rather than an AI that isn't a challenge. That's true, but it's also a question of like, I don't know. There's a great YouTuber guy, Gotham Chess, and he has done a series of videos. Doug, I don't know if you've seen these or not. They're absolutely hilarious because he's got ChatGPT playing against like other AIs, and they
Mhm.
just cheat like crazy. Like, like I castled, and then it turned my pawn into a queen. It turned my white pawn into a black queen, and said check. What? Like you can't do. And then it would insist like, yes, we're gonna. That's the move. We're gonna do that. So it's if you get a chance to watch that series, it's very very funny,
That's
and it makes me feel a little bit more confident that AI is not around the corner from like taking over the world because
yeah.
like I don't think so. I tried to use AI an AI generator to make a logo for Battlefront Dayton. I must have ran it through 6 or 7 different AI generators, image generators, and each one generating 2 or 3 examples. Not one of them even spelled the words correctly.
That's funny.
Like Battlefront Dayton couldn't spell it. They would leave the T out of Dayton. It would add 3 L's in the middle of Battlefront. The one time the B was missing and it was just a woman's leg. What? It was just the weirdest thing. So yeah, AI is powerful. There's no doubt about that, and it's something we should pay attention to. But taking over the world around the corner, it is not. I gotta think.
I agree. The AI could be better. It's just too easy to completely own it, and I actually think you can get worse by playing it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think that I tell you what I've done like now recently, if like just like trying to waste 20 minutes, is I'll just pick one power. Like I'll pick Germany and I'll make the rest of them computer.
Mm.
And then like try to win that way, even though I know Japan is going to be a complete mess, right?
It's interesting.
And that's at least like mildly interesting. Or try to play the Soviets and let everybody else be the computer, knowing that the UK is like going to build a complex in Canada. Like, what? Why are you even over there? I don't even know what the problem is.
Yeah.
So I think that's been at least mildly entertaining, but we'll see. All right. There was something else I was going to say. I'm trying to remember what it was, but Gen Con. Who's going to Gen Con? Tell us what's going on at Gen Con. Doug's going. I'm going to be there. Jamie's going to be there. Jamie's going to come. He's coming to Gen Con for the very first time.
Cool.
Which is very cool. Tracy is going to be there. Tracy Hyde's going to be there for the very first time. Very exciting. I know Charles is coming. I know Robert's coming. So I think there's going to be a lot of excitement there. We are going to be making Battlefront Dayton shirts. That if you are interested in those, please let me know. Jamie might play diplomacy with you. That's possible. She might play diplomacy with you. She's not going to play Axis now, as I can promise you that. But yes. But no, so I think that's going to be exciting. We're excited about that. we'll make time, Jamie. If you want to play diplomacy, we'll make time for you to go over there and play diplomacy with Tom. There's no doubt. But we can work it out. So, but I think it's gonna be fun.
I have really thought about joining a diplomacy event at Gen Con. I just have so much Axis and Allies going on usually that I haven't. But I mean, I'm sure I would get annihilated in like the first, 2 rounds or less, but it would still be really fun.
Yes, it is a lot of fun. I've had a chance to play with Thomas. Like Thomas's diplomacy games are just insane. Like Jamie just made this comment that she wants to wear the hats. If you haven't seen it, like they've got little hats that are. If anybody watched the live stream where we had Thomas on talking about Era of Empire and he had that fez on, that's a thing that you have when you're playing at Tom's thing because you're playing Turkey. Like you're wearing a fez because nobody knows anybody else, right? So it's like, how do you know who's France? Well, he's got a big French hat on. The Germans have a big like pillbox hat on. It's brilliant and it's a lot of fun. And it like you gotta get into it, right? Like there's some silliness for sure, but it definitely is a lot of fun, and it should be pretty cool. So, but this was the other thing I was going to talk about. We made a thing that we're going to make available for everybody else as soon as I find it. 2 shakes. The checklist. So we made a checklist for 1942 second edition and for anniversary that folks were using at the spring gathering. I just want to show it real quick so that everybody can kind of see what I'm talking about. I'm trying to find one that it's not all jacked up here. Yep, here we go. So we made these because we got tired of the setup being a mess. So, and of course, we also wanted to advertise the tournament. We got to do, right? But anyway, so it's got the Germans and the Japanese. So this is the Axis one, and we've got another one with all the Allied powers on it, so that you can pretty quickly go down the list and say this has this many pieces, this has this many pieces, and so on. And within 2 minutes, 3-4 minutes max, you can legit like go through both full checklists and make sure that all of the pieces are set up correctly and where they're supposed to be. And we did use this to find a couple of like setup errors that I think were mostly mine, because I set up the game and I had forgot to pick up the checklist that I spent a bunch of time creating and made a couple of setup errors. But then when we sat down and said, okay, Norway has 3 infantry and a fighter. Where's the fighter in Norway? Oh, there it is. Cool. And that way we didn't have to have that problem in the middle of the game. Huzzah, right? So I'm going to set these up and so that they're available on the Discord server. Like I said, we've got them right now for 42 second edition and for anniversary. I am working on the Global 42 setup for Gen Con. Obviously, that's a little bit more involved, and the font will probably be smaller, so I can get it to fit on one piece of paper. But I wanted to; those worked out really well, and everybody seemed to really like them. At Spring Gathering, that was our first time that we tested them, and those worked really well.
I really appreciate the fact that the setup is in some sort of order that actually makes sense, instead of like put 2 guys in London, put a guy in Southern Africa, put a guy in New Zealand, put a guy in Canada, put a guy in India. Like I mean, whoever made those setup charts in the out of the box games, it's like they randomly organize the territories. It drives me crazy.
Right. Yeah. And particularly the Soviets, like you're going across and then one's all the way back here and then another one's up. It's almost like it's trying to trip you up. It's very, very strange. So anyway, so we took the time and actually like talked to some folks, and Doug and I talked about it and like, okay, so what order should these actually be in? And so that actually like makes a pretty reasonable path, right? So people can actually follow it and have it make sense. So I think that's going to be helpful. And this will be a thing that you can download and use on your own at home, which is hopefully it's going to be helpful for folks. The other thing that we did at Spring Gathering for the first time was we used time clocks. Time clocks. I love it. And it worked very, very well, I think. And the objective with it was there were no particular rules that went with it. We were just kind of asking people what to when their turn ended to hit the button so that the next player's time would start, and so that we could have an idea of how much time does the Axis use in a full game of Global? How much time do the Allies use in a full game of 42nd edition, right? Based on tournament rules, right? In the 5 hours or the 6 hours or 9 hours or whatever. And then we created a Google form that Alex did a big chunk of this work because Doug and I were playing. We came around with an iPad to have people, like, you got to put in an email address because it's a Google form, so that, like, that's just how it interacts with you. But then it's just a couple of questions of, like, how much time, what version did you play, right? What was the date of your game, so that we can tell where the game was, and then how much time did the Axis use? How much time did the Allied use? And then as a bonus question, just as a matter of collecting the information, we asked for the bid and who won the game. And so that has netted us a pretty good chunk of information already. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to roll out this so that people can try it at home. Very important when you're doing this to make sure that you're playing by the tournament rules. Right? So, like, don't use this in like a regular casual game where you're using technology and all of a sudden you've got heavy bombers and super subs and nuclear weapons, and, like, don't do all that because it messes with the data. But we'll be able to incorporate all of that information, and we're going to do the same thing at Gen Con. This is what I want to talk about at Gen Con, is we're going to have time clocks on all the tables at Gen Con, and we'll be collecting all of that information at Gen Con. We'll have some very extraordinary volunteers that will be in Board Game Nation shirts that will be going around and collecting this information from the games. The objective is to collect as much of this information as possible. We're going to do this at Gen Con. We're going to do it again at Battlefront Dayton. And then once we know, like, once we've got a reasonable data set that says this is how much time it takes to play the Axis in Anniversary, because we've got these 30, 50, 80 games, whatever it is that we're going to have, then we can say, okay, it takes X amount of time. Just for an example, we'll say that it takes 3 hours and 12 minutes, right? That's the average amount of time that players used to play the Axis in this game. I have no idea what that number is. I'm just making that number up. But if that's the amount of time, then we can say, if you vary from that time by X, then we can try to figure out if there's penalties for that, right? Hopefully we don't, most of the time that shouldn't be an issue. But if somebody's taking 45 minutes, an hour longer than their opponent, then their opponent should probably have some benefit for that, right? But we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. But I wanted to kind of put it on everybody's radar that the clocks were used at Spring Gathering, worked very well. Everybody seemed pretty happy with it. It was pretty simple. I didn't hear anybody, like, have any trouble with the clocks, and I was in the room most of the time. Nobody seemed to, like, my clock's not working or whatever. Every now and again, someone would, and even we would forget to hit the button, right? So, like, hit the clock, and then you just kind of let it run a little bit more when it comes to the other side. So you're just trying to get to the closest as you can. But yeah, so work to Spring Gathering. We're going to be doing it again at Gen Con. We're going to be doing it again at Battlefront Dayton. And that is the purpose of it. So it should be a lot of fun. And it should help with the, hopefully solving this time issue that we've been plagued by for the past however long. So yeah, there'll be questions about that as we go. But I appreciate everybody's participation with it at the Spring Gathering. Everybody was really great about it, and I appreciate that. So thank you for everybody that was there. And thank you in advance for the folks that are going to be doing the same thing at Gen Con. One other thing that's going to happen at Gen Con, something else we did at Spring Gathering, is the map that Doug and I used for Gary and Doug versus the World is the same map that we brought to the Spring Gathering. And I started asking people to sign it. And I signed it, Doug signed it, Greg signed it, and I'd say most of the people that were at the spring gathering also signed it. And we're going to bring it to Gen Con. So if you're coming to Gen Con, I invite you to sign it. We're going to bring it to Battlefront Dayton. I invite everybody there to sign it. And then when we hand out the trophies on Sunday, which we're hoping Larry will participate in, the actual handing out of the trophies and the pictures and all of that stuff, we are going to present him with this map as a way of saying thank you for coming to our event and for everything, because like we've all collected autographs from him over the years, and it seemed like a nice way to say thank you, to give him all of our collective autographs on this map that we have loved and enjoyed playing on for decades now. So when you see the video that's going to come out tomorrow with game 1, that's the map we're using. You'll start to see some of the signatures that are on there already. So that's why those are there. And if you want to add your signature to it, please find us at Gen Con or at Battlefront Dayton. So just keep an eye out for that. And don't tell Larry. So that's fine.
When you talk to him tomorrow.
All right. Prizes. Anything for the people, Doug? Before I start giving away stuff, I got a bunch of stuff here to give away.
No, I don't have anything.
No. Okay. All right. It's prize time then. Let's see. What are we giving away today? We have more fancy dice. Shh. It's a surprise. Ooh, I got a set of Borg dice. Do you remember the Borg dice?
Oh yeah.
These are actually hollow. They're metal and they're hollow. I think these are incredibly cool. I almost kept these for myself. I really love these. So we're going to give these away. And we have another set of dice. These are like an amber red. They're like translucent. These are from our friends at the Dice Nest. So we are grateful for that. We have a number of things from Thomas Haber to give away. We've got a couple of Diplo party bags to give away. And Diplomacy Tumbler. So we're going to do that. And one last thing is we got a game of Acquire to give away. Have you played Acquire, Doug?
I haven't. No.
It's a fun game. I've played it a couple of times now. I really like it. It's a lot of math. I will say that. Like, you're trading stocks. This is a stock trading game, and you're trying to make as much money as possible. A Sid Saxon classic. That is not an easy line to say. Let me just say that. That tumbler, I didn't know this. This tumbler is one of 50 in existence.
Is it serialized?
That's right. Is it number 1? You should have numbered these before you sent them out.
That's right.
So they're collectors. No, that would be okay. So yes, so it's limited edition Diplomacy tumblers. Very important. All right, let's go. Let me pull up my. Bring this down here. Bring this up here. Put this over here. I got all much stuff going on here. Go away. Okay, let's see. Hopefully this works. Screen share, picture +2. Hey, almost. Except we're not in the shot. Why aren't we in the shot?
It's a good question. Why aren't we in the shot, Gary?
Where are you? Let's get Doug in here. There's Doug. Okay.
Woo!
But the shot is... It's not right. Why is it not right? I don't know what happened. Anyway, here we go. Okay, maybe show you the prizes. Let's get Doug in here too. You got to make Doug look good. There he is. Come on in here, Doug. Hey, what's up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. What are we going to do first? Oh, there's a couple comments here before. The landmine or the land minis have almost the same bloat and complex rules to make it fairly difficult for new players. Air minis have the opposite. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're talking about the Axonauts miniatures. I don't know anything about it. I've never played it. I don't know anything about it. but I'm excited to give it a go. So we'll have to hopefully get a chance to check that out. If you got 8 more of these to give away. Well, I'm going to give away this one. We'll see what happens. We're going to start with the dice nest. Let's start with the Borg dice. The Borg dice heading out the door. I like these. It's too bad. I should have used these for something. All right. Hotkey. Did the hotkey work? Why didn't it work? Oh well. All right, here we go. The dice nest. The Borg dice. I'm sure that this is not, of course, what their official name is, but that's what I'm going to call them. We're going to Mr. Coffee, who happens to be on today. Fantastic. Fantastic. Applause. I got. Nope. Still not going to work. I don't know why I set them my hotkeys and they decided not to work. For Mr. Coffee. Very good. You won some cool dice, the Borg dice, in fact, from our friends at the Dice Nest. Make sure you check them out. Very cool. So those are going to Mr. Coffee. Fantastic. And now these Auburn dice. I'm telling you guys, it's a little hard to see these in the camera, but I'm telling you that these are very cool. Mr. Coffee would like to thank the Academy. I bet you would. There we go. No, you can thank Dice Nest. There we go. These are very cool too. I'm excited. I like these. All right. Let's see if we can make this. Oh, no. That's wrong. All right, here we go. The brown dice. Red, brown. Going to Raymond Thorpe.
I might know that guy.
Yes. I believe that this fine, upstanding American is the father of our own Mr. Doug Thorpe. So congratulations to him. I'm sure he will find a good use for these, if only to throw them at you and your children.
That's right.
Which is entirely possible. Awesome. So we'll get these over to Raymond Thorpe for his RPG enjoyment. I like
That's
it.
right.
That's right. And Mr. Coffee is getting the Borg dice, which I think are very, very cool. All right. You know what? I'm going to do the Acquire game next because apparently this is a limited edition tumbler. We're going to make that the big prize at the end. All right, cool. Now, which takes us to Acquire. A gift from our friends at Renegade for giving away, which is very nice. So let's see who's going to win this one. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, Doug, but there's like 7 of these spin again things here. I've been adding one of these every time that it hasn't hit. So I believe there's 7 of them in here now, 7 or 8 of them. There's a bunch of them. All right.
It's too bad they're not spread out. They're like it's going to end up just becoming a big pie wedge. It's going to be like a third of the thing.
Right. Yeah, I tried to do it, but I screwed it up and I didn't want to go back and try it again because I'd have to. It don't matter. But anyway, so they're there. If it hits, we'll find another prize and we'll spin again. All right. So next up is the Acquire game, and it is from our friends at Renegade Game Studios, and it is going to go to my friend and yours, Murnook. Fantastic, Murnook. Congratulations. You, sir, are taking home the copy of Acquire. And that is a fun game that we'll be happy to send out to you. If you are winning one of these prizes, unless you're Raymond Thorpe, please reach out to us in the Discord server, and we will get your address and get these things out to you in the mail as quickly as possible. So last, certainly, absolutely not least, are the Diplomacy party bags, which have all kinds of fun diplomacy items inside, including a diplomacy pens and Diplo mints, which I just love. I just absolutely love that. They're Altoids that literally say Diplo mint on it, which I think is great. If you want to think about like a well thought out event, diplomacy, there's lots of talking up close, right? Like this is because you're having confidential conversations and it's a little stressful. So the adrenaline gets pumping. it makes people's breath sometimes have a little bit of a scent to it that is not pleasurable. So the idea that Tom thought about that and like ordered specialty mint tins expressly for the use of diplomacy tournaments is insane to me. Like that's next level event production, my friends. Just
genius.
It really kind of is. It's a whole nother level. And then, of course, the limited edition one of 50. One of 50. It's amazing. Okay. Let's see who's going to take this home. We do what we can to eliminate the diplomacy based on Yes. Yes, I appreciate that. You're a good man, Charlie Brown. All right, so here we go. For the Diplo package is going to, from our friend Tom Saver, is going to
get a spin again here pretty soon.
I'm telling you.
Nathan,
aka Mind Blown, who was a big part of the Gary and Doug versus the World. We really appreciate him being a part of the channel. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you all very much for your support. We could not do this without the support of our members and all of the joy that you guys have made possible for us as we continue to grow and continue to build hopefully fun things that everybody seems to be digging. So I appreciate that. Lots of cool things coming up. Gen Con, Battlefront Dayton. Event registration for Battlefront Dayton is going to open up after Gen Con, so keep an eye out for that. And I don't know what else. There's just so much. I need a sandwich. I'm going to put that out there. I need a sandwich. But it's been a lot of fun. Thank you to Jasper for reaching out and asking for our thoughts on his project. We hope that he will keep us apprised of his progress on that. And if there are other things that we can do to help him along the way, I hope that he reaches out for that. So thank you, Jasper, for reaching out. And we hope that that it's a lot of fun and that you guys have a good time. So, Doug, anything for the people before we kick them out the door?
No, this has been good, fun conversation.
Yeah, I hope my real hope here, I wanted to help Jasper with his homework, but my real hope here is that somebody out there that's a software developer is taking notes here about what the community wants to see, and that they're able to go out there and help make that a reality. And if there's something that we can do to help with that, we hope that we have done that today. And if there's anything we can do in the future, we hope that they will reach out to us again. But thank you all for being here and helping us answer these questions when possible. And that is a very fine copy of Conquest of the Empire. And it is actually set up to be a prize because it is signed by Larry Harris. It is signed, as is the rule book. The box lid and the rule book are both signed by Larry Harris. So that is set up to be a prize that I think we might give away at Battlefront Dayton. It's tricky though because if anybody wins a prize that's worth more than $600, in theory I'm supposed to send you a W2G.
Is that worth more than $600?
No, oh. No. But I am a little curious about that copy that we gave to Chad Condi with the triple signatures from Matt and Larry, but like, no, it's one of a kind and it's never sold anywhere before. So there'd be no way to price it at that much.
I think it was only worth $5.99. It's good.
Probably. It'll be fine. But I will tell you, spoiler alert, Nightingale Games is sending us a copy of War Room. That's the signature copy, the first edition, signature edition from the original Kickstarter, like with all of the stretch goals.
Wow.
That's signed by Larry. And somebody has one listed on eBay for more than $600 right now. And they're sending us one of those as a prize to give away at Battlefront Dayton.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
I am not exaggerating when I tell you we will have thousands of dollars worth of stuff to give away at Battlefront Dayton. Like, you're going to pay your money to get in. And I'm not saying that we're the cheapest event out there. But if everybody doesn't leave with something, I'm going to be shocked. Shocked. It will be because you didn't want to leave with anything. That will absolutely be the truth. We have so much stuff to give away. I'm going to have trouble getting it all from here to there. I'm going to have to rent a truck. That's not an exaggeration. I'm going to need a truck.
It's good
to move everything from stuff that's being delivered. Like I just said, I've got a copy of War Room 2nd edition that's for demo and playing at Battlefront Dayton sitting in my storage right now. There's 6 other boxes of stuff around here that people have been sending for prizes.
That's great.
It's going to be a lot. Bring empty luggage for prizes. Jamie's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. And wait until you see these trophies. Man, these trophies are so good. Anyway, I'm super excited about it. You guys have been fantastic. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out the door. We've had a lot of fun. I'm working this week on the diplomacy video. And so hopefully we'll be able to set up a live stream that goes with that to help try to make sense of anything that we saw in that diplomacy video. Because I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm super excited to give it a try. Congrats to our winners. Raymond Thorpe, good man. I knew I liked that guy. Mr. Coffee, and everybody else that won the prizes that we have this evening. So should be a lot of fun. Awesome. Doug, thank you very much for taking the time and hanging out with us. Should be a lot of fun, and you've been great.
Yeah, thanks for having me as always, Gary. Thanks everybody for joining.
Excellent. All right, friends, have a great weekend. We will see you next time. Good night.
Bye.